Captain Jake Morrison walked slowly across the bridge of his ship. The UES Leviathan was huge. It was 2 kilometers long and filled with the best weapons Earth could build. Jake had been the captain of this ship for 3 years now. He knew every corner of it like his own home. The bridge was quiet this morning. Most of his crew was working at their stations. They were getting ready for something big. Jake could feel the tension in the air. Everyone knew that today would change everything for humanity. Commander Lisa Turner came up to Jake. She was holding a datapad in her hands. Her face looked serious. Lisa had been Jake's second in command for 2 years. She was smart and brave. Jake trusted her more than anyone else on the ship. "Captain, we got the message," Lisa said. She handed him the datapad. "It's from them. The Alien Council." Jake took the pad and read the message. The words were translated into English, but they still felt strange. The message was formal and cold. It said that humanity must come to a place called Kepler Prime. They had to appear before something called the Galactic Council. The message made it sound like humans were children who had done something wrong. "They want us to come and explain ourselves," Jake said. He felt angry reading the message. Like we need their permission to exist. Lisa nodded. "Admiral Parker called an hour ago. He wants to talk to you before we leave." Jake walked to his private office behind the bridge. He pressed a button and Admiral Roy Parker's face appeared on the screen. Parker was an old man with gray hair and kind eyes. He had been Jake's mentor for many years. Parker had chosen Jake to be the captain of humanity's most powerful ship. "Jake, are you ready for this?" Parker asked. "As ready as we can be, sir," Jake replied. "The ship is in perfect condition. The crew knows what to do." Parker smiled. "Good. Remember, you're not just representing our military. You're representing all of humanity. 8 billion people are counting on you." Jake felt the weight of those words. "What do we know about this council?" "Not much," Parker said. "Our spies have gathered some information. There are 12 alien species in the council. They have controlled this part of space for thousands of years. They think they own everything out here. And they want to judge us," Jake said. "Yes. They probably expect us to beg for permission to travel in space. They think we're primitive and weak." Jake looked out the window of his office. He could see Earth in the distance. It looked small and blue. But Jake knew that small planet had created something amazing. The Leviathan was proof of human strength and intelligence. "They're going to be surprised," Jake said. Parker laughed. "That's what I'm hoping for. Show them what humans can do, Jake. But be careful. We don't want to start a war." After the call ended, Jake went back to the bridge. Chief Engineer Beth Collins was there. She was checking the ship systems one more time. Beth was young but very smart. She had helped design many of the ship's weapons and defenses. "How are we looking, Beth?" Jake asked. "Everything is perfect, Captain," Beth said with a smile. "The fusion drives are running at 100%. The quantum shields are online. All weapons are ready." Jake nodded. The Leviathan used technology that was different from what the aliens used. Human scientists had worked alone for many years. They had found new ways to build ships and weapons. Jake hoped this would give them an advantage. Navigation Officer Carl Davis called out from his station. "Captain, we're ready to jump to hyperspace." Jake walked to the center of the bridge. Around him, his crew was working hard. These people had trained for years for this moment. They came from all over Earth. Different countries, different backgrounds, but they all worked together now. Communications Officer Nina Brooks was listening to radio signals from space. She had learned the alien languages by studying their broadcasts. "Captain, I'm picking up a lot of alien chatter. They're all talking about us." "What are they saying?" Jake asked. "Most of them sound curious, but some sound worried. They know we're coming." Security Chief Dan Wright stood near the weapons controls. He was a big man with strong arms. Dan had been a soldier before joining the Space Navy. "Captain, should we go in with weapons ready?" Jake thought about this. He wanted to show strength, but he didn't want to look like they were planning to attack. Keep the weapons offline, but ready to activate quickly. I want them to see we're peaceful, but not helpless. Jake pressed a button to speak to the whole ship. His voice went to all 3,000 crew members. This is Captain Morrison. In a few minutes, we will jump to hyperspace. We're going to meet aliens for the first time in human history. They think we're weak. They think we need their permission to explore space. We're going to show them they're wrong. He paused and looked around the bridge. We're not going there to fight. We're going there to show them that humans are strong and smart. We've built something amazing here. The Leviathan is the most powerful ship humans have ever created. But it's not just about our ship. It's about our spirit. Humans don't bow to anyone. The crew listened carefully. Jake could see pride in their eyes. Remember, we represent everyone back on Earth. Every human who ever looked up at the stars and dreamed of traveling among them. We are their ambassadors. We will be respectful, but we will not be afraid. Jake sat down in his captain's chair. It was time to go. Carl, take us to hyperspace. Yes, sir, Carl said. His hands moved over his controls. The Leviathan's engines powered up. The ship began to shake slightly. Outside the windows, the stars started to stretch into long lines. Then everything went white. They were traveling faster than light now, heading toward their destiny. In a few hours, they would arrive at Kepler Prime. Jake wondered what the aliens would think when they saw his ship. The Leviathan was not like their elegant vessels. It was built for war. It was built to survive. Jake closed his eyes for a moment. He thought about his home on Earth. He thought about all the people who were depending on him. He would not let them down. Humanity was ready to take its place among the stars. And if the aliens didn't like it, they would have to deal with the consequences. The journey to their first alien contact had begun. The Leviathan dropped out of hyperspace with a flash of white light. Captain Jake Morrison felt the ship shake as it returned to normal space. He gripped his chair and looked out at the view screen. What he saw made him take a deep breath. Kepler Prime was unlike anything humans had ever seen. The space station was enormous. It hung in space near a dead star that gave off a dim red glow. The station was made of some kind of crystal that sparkled in the starlight. It stretched for hundreds of kilometers in all directions. Tall spires reached out from the main body like the arms of a giant spider. "My God!" whispered Commander Lisa Turner. She stood next to Jake's chair, staring at the massive structure. "It's beautiful." Navigation Officer Carl Davis was busy at his controls. He was scanning the area around the station. "Captain, I'm counting 47 alien ships. They're all around us." Jake studied the alien vessels on his screen. They were nothing like human ships. Most of them looked like works of art. They had smooth curves and shining surfaces. Some looked like giant flowers made of metal. Others looked like sea creatures swimming through space. They were beautiful, but they didn't look very dangerous. "They're smaller than I expected," said Security Chief Dan Wright. He was studying the weapons readings. "The biggest one is only about 500 meters long. We're 4 times bigger than any of them." Communications Officer Nina Brooks was listening to alien radio signals. She had her headphones on and was typing quickly on her computer. "Captain, they're all talking about us. I'm picking up transmissions in 12 different languages." "What are they saying?" Jake asked. "Most of them sound surprised. They keep using words that translate to massive and unprecedented. I think they weren't expecting us to be so big." Chief Engineer Beth Collins was at her station, monitoring the ship systems. "Captain, several of the alien ships are trying to scan us. Their sensors are hitting our hull." Jake frowned. The aliens were trying to learn about human technology. "Are they getting through our defenses?" "No, sir. Our quantum shielding is blocking most of their scans. But they're being very persistent about it." Jake thought about this. The aliens wanted to know what humans were capable of. That was smart of them. But Jake didn't want to show them everything the Leviathan could do. Not yet. Let them scan our outer hull only, Jake decided. Block everything else. I want them to see we have good defenses, but I don't want them to know how good. On the view screen, Jake could see some of the alien ships moving. A few were coming closer, as if they wanted to escort the Leviathan to the station. Others were backing away, keeping their distance from the massive human warship. Incoming transmission, Nina announced. It's from the station. Put it on screen, Jake ordered. The view screen changed to show an alien face. The creature had blue skin and large black eyes. Its mouth was small and it had no nose that Jake could see. When it spoke, a computer translated its words into English. Human vessel, you are cleared to dock at port 7. Follow the guidance signals. Do not deviate from the assigned course. Any aggressive actions will be met with force. The transmission ended abruptly. Friendly, Lisa said with a sarcastic tone. They're scared, Jake realized. Look how they're positioning their ships. They're trying to surround us, but they're staying far away. Dan Wright studied his tactical display. Captain, their ships are armed, but not heavily. Most of them have energy weapons, but nothing that could hurt us through our shields. Jake stood up and walked to the front of the bridge. He looked out at the alien station growing larger as they approached. They've been in charge here for thousands of years. They're used to smaller ships coming to them asking for favors. We're something new. Carl was following the guidance signals from the station. Captain, the docking port they gave us is huge. Much bigger than what those other ships would need. They built it for ships our size, Beth observed. That means we're not the first big ship they've seen. This made Jake think. Maybe there were other species out there with large warships. Maybe the Council had dealt with threats before. He made a mental note to be extra careful. As the Leviathan moved closer to the station, Jake could see more details. The crystal structure was even more impressive up close. It seemed to glow with its own light. There were windows everywhere, and Jake could see movement behind them. Aliens watching the human ship arrive. Captain, Nina said, I'm intercepting a lot of internal communications from the station. They're arguing about something. Can you tell what? It's hard to translate, but I think some of them want to turn us away. Others want to see what we're capable of. There's a lot of disagreement. Jake smiled grimly. Good. If the aliens were arguing, it meant they were unsure how to handle humans. That gave him an advantage. The docking process took 30 minutes. The Leviathan was so large that it had to be very careful not to damage the station. Carl piloted the ship expertly into the enormous docking port. Mechanical arms reached out from the station and clamped onto the human ship. We're secure, Carl announced. Jake felt the ship settle as the docking clamps locked into place. He looked around at his crew. They had made it. They were now attached to an alien space station, surrounded by 47 alien warships. Nina, send a message to Earth. Tell them we've arrived safely. Yes, sir. Jake walked back to his chair and sat down. The next phase would be face-to-face contact with the aliens. He had studied everything humanity knew about the Galactic Council, but it wasn't much. They would be walking into the unknown. Lisa, get the diplomatic team ready. Full dress uniforms. We're going to meet them in their council chamber. Should we bring weapons? Dan asked. Jake thought about this. Sidearms only. We want to show respect, but we're not going in defenseless. Beth stood up from her station. Captain, what if this is a trap? What if they're planning to capture us? Jake looked at her. Beth was young and this was her first time off Earth. It was natural for her to be worried. Then we'll show them why that would be a mistake, Jake said calmly. The Leviathan has enough firepower to level this entire station. They know that. If they were planning to attack us, they wouldn't have let us dock. Jake pressed the button to speak to the whole ship again. Attention all hands. We have successfully docked with Kepler Prime. In 1 hour, the diplomatic team will meet with the Alien Council. Everyone else will remain at their stations and be ready for anything. This is what we trained for. Make humanity proud. Jake stood up and straightened his uniform. It was time to come face to face with the aliens who thought they ruled this part of space. They were about to learn that humanity was not like the other species they had encountered. Humans would not bow down to anyone, no matter how old or powerful they claimed to be. Captain Jake Morrison walked through the corridors of Kepler Prime with his team behind him. The alien station was even more impressive on the inside. The walls were made of the same crystal material as the outside, but they glowed softly with different colors. The ceiling was so high that Jake could barely see it in the dim light. Commander Lisa Turner stayed close to Jake's left side. Chief Engineer Beth Collins was on his right. Security Chief Dan Wright walked behind them, his hand resting on his sidearm. Communications Officer Nina Brooks carried a portable translator device in case their regular translators failed. The corridors were wide enough for 20 people to walk side by side. Jake realized they were built for species much larger than humans. The aliens they had seen in transmissions were about the same size as humans, so there must be bigger species in the council. "Captain," Nina whispered, "I'm picking up a lot of electronic chatter. There are hundreds of aliens in this station, all talking about us." "What are they saying?" Jake asked quietly. "Most of them have never seen humans before. They're curious but also worried. Some are calling us the big ship people." Jake almost smiled at that. Humans had made quite an impression with the size of their ship. They followed their alien guide, a tall creature with silver skin and 4 arms. It hadn't spoken to them since they left the docking port. Jake could feel its nervousness. Every few minutes, it would look back at them with its large yellow eyes. After walking for 20 minutes, they reached a huge door. It was at least 50 meters tall and made of some kind of black metal. Strange symbols were carved into its surface. The door opened slowly, revealing the council chamber beyond. Jake stepped through the door and stopped. The chamber was enormous. The ceiling disappeared into darkness above them. 12 platforms surrounded a central area where Jake and his team were supposed to stand. Each platform was 30 meters high and held the representatives of different alien species. "Welcome, humans," said a voice from above. Jake looked up at the platforms but couldn't tell which alien had spoken. The translator made all their voices sound the same. Jake walked to the center of the chamber. His team spread out behind him in a defensive formation. He looked up at the 12 platforms and saw the aliens who ruled this part of space. On the first platform was a creature that looked like a giant insect. It had 6 legs and wings that sparkled in the light. Its eyes were compound like a fly's eyes, made of thousands of tiny parts. The second platform held something that looked like a tree, but Jake could see it moving and breathing. Its branches swayed even though there was no wind in the chamber. On the third platform sat a creature covered in scales. It looked somewhat like a dragon from human fairy tales, but it was smaller and had intelligent eyes. Jake looked at all 12 platforms. Each alien was different from the others. Some were beautiful, others were strange, and a few looked frightening. But they all stared down at the humans with the same expression. They thought they were better than the humans. "I am Counselor Vex, then of the hegemony," said the insect creature. Its voice was translated into perfect English, but Jake could hear the anger underneath. "You humans have entered our space without permission. You have built ships of war and traveled among our stars. Explain yourselves." Jake took a step forward. He had practiced this speech many times. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of Earth. We come in peace, but we come as equals. We don't need permission to travel in space. Space belongs to everyone." The chamber erupted in angry sounds. The aliens were making noises that the translator couldn't handle. Some were clicking, others were roaring, and one sounded like it was singing. "Silence!" shouted another voice. Jake looked up and saw a creature that looked like a giant jellyfish floating in a tank of water. "I am Counselor Zexnal of the Dominion. Human, you speak of equality, but you are children. Your species has only just learned to leave your home planet. We have ruled this galaxy for 3,000 years. Age doesn't make you our masters," Jake replied calmly. "We respect your experience, but we won't bow to you." More angry sounds filled the chamber. Jake could see that several of the aliens were very upset by his words. A new voice spoke, smoother than the others. "I am Counselor Lex Vor of the Empire." Jake looked up and saw a creature that looked almost human, except its skin was pure white and it had no hair. "Perhaps the humans don't understand their situation. You are one ship in a galaxy of trillions. We offer you the chance to become a client species. You will be under our protection and guidance." "In exchange for what?" Lisa asked, stepping forward. "Your independence," Lexvor said simply. "You will follow our laws and our customs. Your ships will carry our flags. Your planets will pay tribute to us." Jake felt his anger rising, but he kept his voice calm. "We didn't come here to surrender our freedom. We came here to introduce ourselves as a new member of the galactic community." "You presume too much," hissed a snake-like creature from another platform. "What makes you think you deserve to be treated as equals? What have you accomplished that gives you the right to stand before us?" Jake had been waiting for this question. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. It was a communicator connected directly to the Leviathan. "We've accomplished something that I think will interest you," Jake said. He pressed a button on the device. "Beth, show them what human engineering can do." High above the station, the Leviathan began to power up its weapon systems. The massive ship's hundreds of gun ports started glowing with blue energy. The fusion reactors that powered the weapons created more energy than most alien ships used for their entire power systems. Alarms started going off throughout the council chamber. The aliens on their platforms were suddenly very busy, checking their own sensors and communicating with their ships. "What are you doing?" demanded Vex then. The insect creature's wings were buzzing with agitation. "I'm showing you why we deserve respect," Jake said. "That energy reading you're detecting is from just one of our ships. We have 11 more just like it back at Earth." The chamber fell silent except for the sound of alien technology working frantically to analyze what the Leviathan was doing. Counselor Zexnael's voice was different now, less confident. "Your weapons, they're not using standard galactic technology." "No, they're not," Jake agreed. "We developed our technology independently. We took a different path than you did." He could see fear in some of the aliens' eyes now. They were beginning to understand that humans were not like the other species they had encountered. "Impossible," whispered Lexvor. "No species develops technology that advanced on their own. You must have stolen it from someone." Jake smiled. "We didn't steal anything. We built it ourselves. Humans are very good at solving problems and building things. We've been doing it for thousands of years." The aliens on their platforms were talking amongst themselves now, their voices too low for the translators to pick up. Jake could see that they were scared and confused. He decided it was time to make his point clear. "We don't want to fight you," Jake said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "But we won't be your subjects either. We propose a new relationship. One between equals." The 12 counselors stared down at him in stunned silence. The silence in the council chamber stretched on. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the center, looking up at the 12 alien counselors. He could see the confusion and fear in their eyes. They had never met a species that refused to submit to their authority. Finally, Counselor Vex then spoke. The insect creature's wings were still buzzing with agitation. "You claim your ship has powerful weapons. Words are easy to say. We demand proof." Jake smiled. This was exactly what he had hoped they would ask for. "Very well. But I'll need you to clear your ships away from a specific area." "Why?" asked Counselor Zexnael from her water tank. "Because I don't want to accidentally damage them during the demonstration." The aliens looked at each other nervously. Jake could see them having quick conversations through their private communication channels. After a few minutes, Vex then spoke again. "There is an asteroid field 200 kilometers from this station. You may conduct your demonstration there." "Perfect," Jake said. He pressed his communicator again. "Beth, are you listening?" Chief Engineer Beth Collins's voice came through clearly. "Yes, Captain. All systems are ready. Target the largest asteroid in the field. Show them what our main guns can do." "Understood, sir." Up on the Leviathan, Beth was working at her control station. Around her, the ship's weapon systems were humming with power. The main fusion cannons were charging up to full capacity. She had been waiting for this moment for years. Beth had helped design these weapons. They used a completely new type of technology that human scientists had developed. Instead of the energy beams that most aliens used, human weapons created small fusion reactions and fired them at their targets. It was like shooting tiny stars. "Weapons charged and ready," Beth announced to the ship's bridge. Commander Lisa Turner had stayed behind to monitor the situation from the Leviathan. "Fire when ready," Lisa ordered. Beth pressed the firing button. Down in the council chamber, Jake and his team waited. The aliens were watching their sensors, trying to figure out what the human ship was doing. Suddenly, alarms started going off again. But these were different alarms, louder and more urgent than before. "Energy spike detected," announced an automated voice throughout the station. "Massive energy discharge in Sector 7. Through the crystal walls of the chamber, everyone could see a brilliant flash of light in the distance. For just a moment, it was like a new star had been born in space. The light was so bright that it hurt to look at directly. When the light faded, the asteroid was gone. Completely gone. Where there had been a rock the size of a small moon, now there was only empty space and a few tiny pieces of debris. The council chamber was completely silent. Every alien was staring at their sensor readings in shock. Jake decided to break the silence. "That asteroid was made of solid rock and metal. Our sensors showed it was very dense and hard. It would have taken your ships several hours to destroy something that size." "How long did it take your ship?" whispered Counselor Lex Vor. 3 seconds, Jake replied calmly. The aliens began talking frantically among themselves. Their voices overlapped so much that the translators couldn't keep up. Jake caught words like impossible and unprecedented and dangerous. Counselor Vex then finally restored order. "Humans, what you have shown us is concerning. But one ship, no matter how powerful, cannot stand against the combined fleets of 12 species." Jake had been expecting this response too. "You're right. One ship wouldn't be enough. That's why we didn't build just one." He pressed his communicator again. "Nina, send the signal." Back on Earth, Communications Officer Nina Brooks had left a message waiting to be transmitted. When she received Jake's signal, she sent out a coded message to 11 other locations around Earth's solar system. The response was immediate. 11 more ships, just like the Leviathan, powered up their engines and jumped to hyperspace. They appeared at the edge of the Kepler Prime system in perfect formation. The alien sensors went crazy. 12 massive human warships were now surrounding the station. Each one was broadcasting the same energy signature as the Leviathan. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy entire fleets. 12 ships, Jake said quietly. Each one identical to the Leviathan. Each one crewed by 3,000 humans who believe in freedom. The counselors were no longer trying to hide their fear. Some were openly communicating with their home worlds, probably asking for instructions on how to deal with this unprecedented situation. "This is not possible," Counselor Zexnal said. Her voice was shaking. "No species develops this level of technology so quickly. You've only been in space for decades." "Humans are good at learning," Jake explained. "We spent those decades studying everything we could about galactic technology. Then we improved on it. We made it better." Beth's voice came through his communicator. "Captain, I'm detecting weapons charging on several alien ships." Jake wasn't surprised. Fear made people do dangerous things. "Are our defenses ready?" "Yes, sir. All ships are at full defensive capability." Jake looked up at the counselors. "I hope you're not thinking of doing something foolish. My ships have orders to defend themselves if attacked." "You threaten us in our own space," accused Vex then. "I'm not threatening anyone," Jake replied. "I'm simply stating facts. We came here for peaceful contact. You demanded proof of our capabilities. We provided it. Now you're considering attacking us because you don't like what you learned." Counselor Lex Vor leaned forward on his platform. "What do you want from us, humans?" "Recognition," Jake said simply. "We want to be treated as equals in the galactic community. We want to trade, to learn, to share knowledge. But we won't accept being anyone's subjects." "And if we refuse?" asked another counselor. Jake shrugged. "Then we'll go our own way. We'll explore space on our own terms. We'll make contact with other species directly. Your council can continue to exist, but without any authority over humanity." The aliens talked among themselves for several minutes. Jake could see that they were struggling with this decision. For thousands of years, they had been the only major powers in this region of space. Now they were faced with a species that was potentially stronger than all of them combined. Finally, Counselor Vex then spoke for the group. "The council will need time to consider your proposal. This session is concluded." Jake nodded. "We'll wait for your decision. But not forever." As Jake and his team left the council chamber, he could hear the aliens arguing loudly behind them. Some wanted to fight, others wanted to negotiate, and still others wanted to simply pretend the humans didn't exist. Walking back through the crystal corridors, Lisa spoke quietly to Jake. "Do you think they'll accept us?" "They don't have much choice," Jake replied. "They can fight us and lose, or they can accept us as equals. Smart leaders choose survival." When they reached the Leviathan, Jake went straight to the bridge. He looked out at the 11 other human ships surrounding the station. It was a beautiful sight. "Captain," Beth said, "Admiral Parker is calling from Earth." Jake took the call. Parker's face appeared on screen, smiling broadly. "Outstanding work, Jake. The whole planet is watching. You've made us all proud." "Thank you, sir. But this is just the beginning. Things are going to change out here." "I hope so," Parker said. "Humanity has been waiting a long time to take our place among the stars." Jake looked out at the alien station and the ships surrounding it. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had announced itself not as subjects begging for acceptance, but as equals demanding respect. The age of human expansion among the stars had truly begun.